night. Depend on me, the one to handle it and get it right. Your body is banging, baby. I love the way you're flowing. Time to give it to daddy. Sugar, tell me how you want it.
All right, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Around the Octagon, UFC 307. We have Luke and Ryan with us today. No Colin again. Decided to bail out. Hopefully he listens this time. But I'm excited for this card. Excited to talk some fights. How about you, fellas?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Very excited. I think this is a very underrated card, so happy to get into it.
All right, we'll briefly go over some fight news. Really wasn't too much that happened since the last time we talked, but we did have a dominant win by Moicano over Benoit Saint-Denis in France. What's next for Money Moicano? Ryan, what do you think?
I know he's like, we talked about it earlier, but, you know, he's reaching up in age, 35, 36 years old. He's been pretty adamant about fighting for a belt. You know, his moves are only trying to look up. He's called out Paddy Pimblett, Justin Gaethje, and Dan Hooker. Paddy Pimblett's a money fight. I would love to see that. I mean, I'd love to see all of them. But, I mean, in terms of him trying to go for the belt, it either has to be Dan Hooker or Gaethje. So I expect either of those two fights to be booked in the near future, especially with the way he carries himself on the mic. He does have a lot of superstar like potential in terms of marketability.
Yeah, Ryan, I agree with it. The thing about Money Moicano is I feel like some people will take it for granted. He's a smart dude, man. He like knows who he wants to call out before. Everything's pretty calculated on his end. His podcast is great as well, but I think I would lean more towards him fighting Dan Hooker or Justin Gaethje, and I honestly think Gaethje makes a little bit more sense. Just because you kind of see like at the top, when the guys get older, they normally go down in the rankings and fight a guy like Poirier did before he got his belt opportunity against Islam. So I kind of see that kind of playing out for Gaethje here. I do think Dan Hooker's on kind of a run of beating guys above him, so I don't think it would be. I just don't think the trends towards Moicano Hooker. So I think a good fight would be Gaethje Moicano next.
Yeah, I really like that Gaethje call out too, and I think it could make sense for Gaethje too. I mean, after taking like a year layoff like he wanted to do, you can come back in with Moicano. He has the wrestling ability to negate any takedowns and get down on the ground. I don't think he'd be crazy intimidated by Moicano on the feet either. So I think it's a good fight for Gaethje to get back into things as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just an exciting matchup all around. I mean, Moicano really put on a statement. We all know BSD's like pretty confident on the ground, wins by subs, dangerous on the feet, wins by KO, and Moicano just shut him down the entire first round. And he did it with a broken collarbone. You know, it took him to the ground with a broken collarbone coming into that fight injured, and arguably 10-7'd him.
Yeah, that collarbone was kind of wild. Like I saw people talking about it. They were like, I didn't realize Moicano had such pointy shoulders. Like, what's up with that? And then afterwards he was like, yeah, I mean, look at the x-ray. That thing was pretty fucked up. But yeah, good for Ronaldo. I'm happy for the guy. Pumped up. I'm a Moicano fan myself, so.
And that collarbone, like I've broken my collarbone before. That's like not a collarbone break. Like that was like inches apart from where it should have been. Like that's one of the worst collarbone injuries I've seen. Like it looked like he got in like a car accident and that happened. So for him to even be able to fight with that is insane. Dude's tough as nails.
Absolutely. I think he's already proven he has the mentality of a champion. I guess now we just have to wait and see if he has the skill to become one.
Yeah, we will see. All right, so let's kick off this card. First fight, we have Court McGee at plus 160 versus Tim Means at minus 190. McGee has a professional record of 22-13 and is 9-12 in the UFC, where Means is 33-16-1 and is 15-13-1 in the UFC. We got some longtime vets here. How do you think we start off this card, guys?
I see this going Tim Means' way. McGee's lost his last 3 fights, 2 of them by KO, 1 by unanimous decision. And I just think at his age, I think he's 39, almost 40 years old. I mean, so is Tim Means, but it seems like McGee's just wearing that weather a little bit more, and you see it. It's a lot more visible.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, though, Means hasn't performed better. You said, obviously, Court McGee's lost his last 3, but Tim Means has 1 out of his last 5. So I know we normally seems like the first leg of any parlay you do every fight. It always kind of ends up being the Achilles heel. I think I'm going to stay away from this fight, but I will agree. I would lean towards Tim Means. I'm picking him for the point of picking every fight here, but I just can't see how this run really plays out. I think anything could happen. When you get guys up, 39 and 40 years old, it takes one punch. Their chins aren't what they were when they're 25 to 35. So advise against putting that much money on this fight.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think you hit it on the nose there. I really don't intend on dabbling in this one much at all. If I were to throw something on it, I'd probably go with Means, just kind of fading the guy that's 9-12 in his UFC career. I just wouldn't feel comfortable putting my money on that, to be honest with you. But all right, over to the next fight. We have Carla Esparza at plus 145 versus Tisha Pennington at minus 175. Esparza has a professional record of 20-7 and is 10-5 in the UFC. And Pennington has a professional record of 13-7 while being 11-7 in the UFC. Ryan, we'll kick it off with you. Where are you leaning on this one?
Women's fights are hard to predict. Solely for my parlay of the night, the Pennington parlay, I'm taking Tisha Pennington. She'll get it done no matter what. Her wife's fighting co-main event. I feel like you have to win. Their kid's going to be there. Make the moment special for their child. Give me the Pennington parlay.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm actually riding with you. I think I'm not going to take the later half of the Pennington parlay. I'm a big Julianna Pena fan, but I'm going to take Tisha Pennington here. I think she just has a little more activity, and I think we've kind of seen throughout Esparza's career, like she doesn't do well with active fighters. Like, yeah, she'll beat Rose when they don't throw punches and like whisper words across an octagon for 5 rounds. She'll win those fights, and she wins when she clearly has the jiu-jitsu advantage where she can hold her opponent down and, get the submission or the submission attacks that she wants. Also just have a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, we watched that Rose fight. I think we all lost a good amount of money on Rose losing. We're Rose fans. And then we watched Wei Li beat her ass live. Or me and Big Tom, who couldn't be here tonight, did at least. So I'm just fading Esparza here. I also think Pennington's a kind of a decent underdog here. I don't think it's crazy. I think it's between 100 and 200. But I think that's a value play here. I'm riding with the first half of the Pennington parlay here.
I was actually seeing Esparza as the underdog when I was looking earlier, which really threw me off.
Really?
And it's a little kind of like a trap line is being thrown out where I kind of feel like Vegas set this line with Esparza as like a slight dog to kind of entice people to throw on it, thinking like, oh, she's the former champ. Why is the former champ at plus money? And to me, that just screams trap line. It just screams danger, and I don't want to touch it, but maybe they have me hooked because if I were to touch something, I'd probably take Esparza, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think my Pennington parlay just switched the odds. Too many people on it.
Yeah, too much sharps coming in. I'm going to check right now to see what it is live. On the UFC website, it has even odds.
ESPN has it at plus 145 Esparza.
Yeah, plus 148 Esparza. So you're taking the favorite here, fading the former champ.
Yeah, it's like interesting how that works out, knowing like how Pennington's coming off to back-to-back losses and whatnot. I guess Esparza hasn't fought in when was that Wei Li fight? Probably like 2 years ago, year and a half.
I thought she fought once since, right? I could
be wrong. Last fought Wei Li. Yep, November 12, 2022.
So yeah, almost 2 years ago. That's a long layoff. So maybe that's why the line's laid out as is. But all right, time to move on to the next one. We have Ryan Spann coming in at minus 245 versus Ovince St. Preux at plus 200. Spann is 21-10 while being 8-6 in the UFC, and St. Preux is 27-17 while being 15-12 in the UFC. Ryan, who are you taking in this one?
I have to take Ryan Spann here. It's another one of those cases. I mean, Ovince St. Preux did upset his last opponent, Nzechukwu, Kenny Nzechukwu, heinous last name to pronounce. I mean, he took him to a decision, beat him, but you could see like in that fight too that he kind of just used like veteran moves, so to speak. Just laid it out the fight, outpointed him a little bit, and ultimately won by split decision. Ryan Spann, super athletic, young, more gas in the tank, more durable, and he's riding a 3-fight loss streak in the UFC. Being this young, I think he's just hungrier. He knows he has to get it done. He has to probably get it done in spectacular fashion, and I could see him just knocking out Ovince St. Preux.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the age comes into factor here. I feel like there's a lot of older gentlemen on this card, which is kind of weird. I feel like Normally you get a good mix, but especially in the prelims. But I think we were also there when Ryan Spann starched Dominic Reyes at Prudential Center. It happens to be his last win. Obviously, we're not going to be there this weekend, but yeah, I don't think I think Ryan Spann has multiple ways to victory here. I think he could finish OSP on the ground. I think he could finish him with his heavy hands. I'm just going to ride within the distance Ryan Spann here.
Yeah, I'm on Spann as well. I mean, at the end of the day, St. Prue's 41, and it's not like, I mean, I think Wonderboy's 41 as well, but I mean, you just look at like the wear and tear on, like, dude, 47 professional MMA fights while being 41 just does not seem like a good combination. I think it's safe to err on the side of youth here, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm looking at his record now. It's like after he fought John Jones, he lost the next two, then won 3, then lost 1. It's just, like that up and down of wins after fighting the GOAT, sort of like Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, that's just, it's a tough situation for him. I mean, when's he get a call, do you think? I mean, how many more fights do you have left in you when you've already fought 44 while being 41?
I think I could see him retiring after this fight if he loses, just because, he's out of the apex fighting in front of a crowd, for the last time. And I think if he loses and they somehow keep him on the roster, he'll be subjected to the apex for the rest of his career. So I think he should just make the most of it if he does lose.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Great career, he's been around for a minute, so
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Let's move on.
All right, next up we have Cesar Almeida at -400 versus Ihor Potieria at +300. Almeida is 5-1 while being 1-1 in the UFC, coming off that loss to your boy Ryan. And then we have Ihor Potieria.
Right,
yeah, Roman Kopylov. Yeah, we have Ihor Potieria at 20-6 while being 2-4 in the UFC. Ryan, do you think that Cesar Almeida has what it takes to rebound in this one after that loss in his previous fight?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Ihor's last fight against Michel Pereira. He got absolutely killed, knocked down, standing guillotine, back slept unconscious, head hit the canvas. It took for me when I see that, it's just oh God. And then when you see a guy, Cesar Almeida, and his striking credentials, I think Cesar Almeida will get this one done with ease.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if anyone has it up, but I think this line is heinously disparaged. I
think Cesar Almeida is a -400.
Yeah, I think that just speaks volumes. I mean, Kopylov's good. I mean, we've been riding him, like you said. Ryan's been a fan of him forever. I think we were all on Roman that fight, but we went back. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't really look into the season that much this time, but he fought Pereira, Alex Pereira, that is, back in the day, right? Yeah. So this guy's just like you said. He has the striking credentials, and we've seen Ihor get knocked out multiple times. I don't think this one. I think, like you guys said, Cesar's gonna have a good bounce back. I think this is an easy KO spot. I don't see really any other way this fight ends. I think this will be a finish for sure.
Yeah, and Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but when that Cesar Almeida versus Roman Kopylov fight, I believe Kopylov kind of ended up going to the grappling a little bit in that one too, didn't he?
Yeah, he had to after Cesar dropped him. And then I think the grappling and ground control time won him that fight. And he took him to a split decision. It was razor close.
Yeah, so I mean, you have a close fight with someone like Roman Kopylov, who I think pretty highly of. I mean, I think he's very sharp striker, and you're able to turn a guy like that into a wrestler. And now, I mean, I don't think Ihor Potieria really has the capabilities to kind of ragdoll Cesar Almeida around. So I'm right with you on Almeida with a knockout finish in that one. All right, next up, we have Austin Hubbard at +140 versus Alexander Hernandez at -170. Hubbard, the Ultimate Fighter alum, is 17-7 while being 4-5 in the UFC, and Hernandez is 14-8 while being 6-7 in the UFC. Well, neither of these guys are world beaters by any means. Who do you favor in this one?
It's a hard one, just because Alex. I don't rate Austin Hubbard too highly, but I also don't rate Alexander Hernandez too highly as well. He came onto the scene, knocked out Beneil Dariush, and everyone thought, holy hell, this guy's he's it. But then he's shown he's had cardio issues in the past. Now he's taking this fight in Salt Lake City at elevation. He's gassed out in 3 rounders before at sea level. So I think if Austin Hubbard can just wear him out tire him. I think he can grind his way to a decision or maybe like a ground TKO type finish. I do believe that Alexander Hernandez is going to gas out eventually at some point in this fight, especially with the high elevation.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm right with you. I think everyone kind of knows Alex Hernandez when he was talking all that shit to Cowboy Cerrone, and then Cerrone put on a masterclass, and he really hasn't been the same since. I mean, I think his last win was Jim Miller. Who Jim Miller obviously went on a little bit of a winning spree later in his career. But and you could say like his fight, the guys he's fought in it's a step above Hubbard. But like you said, I think just when you're fighting like at this level, I think sometimes just seeing one go through, like in basketball, you just got to see a win go through. And I feel like that's why I'm kind of leaning more Hubbard. He's won 3 out of his last 4 versus Hernandez has won 1 of his last 5. I just think in that aspect, like there's something about that. There's a little bit of confidence. As we know, fighting is a huge confidence game. So I'm riding with Hubbard. I could easily see this going to decision. I don't know if one guy gets the other out of there, but I'm going to take Hubbard straight up here.
Yeah, I'm also on Hubbard as well at plus money. I mean, Hernandez is a quick starter, but like Ryan said, he does tend to gas himself out. And I do think, while I don't think too highly of Austin Hubbard as a fighter necessarily, he has shown to be durable. He has shown to be tough. And I think while being tough and durable, you have that mindset, all right, I'm not going to be finished. And he's also never been knocked out or TKO'd in his career. Just, he's a vet. He's been around for a while. So, I mean, while never being knocked out, never being TKO'd, I think he can weather the storm a little bit in that first round with Hernandez and then take over rounds 2 and 3. I'm also on Hubbard by a decision win. All right, the next fight, we have Marina Rodriguez at plus 160 versus Yasmine Lucindo at minus 190. Rodriguez is 17-4-2 in her professional career while being 7-4-2 in the UFC. Lucindo is 16-5 in her career while being 3-1 in the UFC. While Lucindo has looked good in her last few fights, she's getting a little step up in competition here. How do you guys see this one going?
I see Marina Rodriguez getting this one most likely by decision. I think she'll outpoint Lucindo. I really like the way that Rodriguez looked in her fight with Jessica Andrade. That was a big step up in competition for her, and she held her own to a fair amount, took her to a split decision at UFC 300. And I really haven't seen Lucindo fight a high caliber fighter yet and prove herself. So I have to take Marina Rodriguez, especially as a slight underdog.
Yeah, Ryan, just piggybacking off of that, I think it's kind of contradictory to my last point, but I'm riding with the older fighter here in Rodriguez. Obviously, she's 15 years older. I think she's 37 versus 22 here. But yeah, just like you said, like you look at who she's been in there with. Amanda Lemos, Michelle Wooderson Gomez, Jessica Andrade. Like those are big names atop the women's MMA for, the last 10 years, definitely the last 5. I think that just comes to show. I think when you get a up and coming contender, if you will, she's ranked 15, I think, they get a little above themselves, and I think she's going to get put back in her place here. I have Rodriguez getting this one done.
Yeah, this one I was kind of struggling with for a little bit, but I ended up siding with Lucindo just to go with the age aspect. She's coming off 3 wins. I think she has some momentum there, and she's only 22. I think there's large rooms for improvement where you can see her take a significant step up from fight to fight, just gaining more experience inside the UFC and fighting higher caliber opponents. But with that being said, I don't know if I want to touch minus 190 against someone who's been tested against legitimate competition and who just fought Jessica Andrade and very, very well. I mean, that was an impressive performance that she put on. So I don't really like that minus 190 line. I don't think I would touch that, but I did take her as my pick to win this fight.
Yeah, and I would say that some of Lucindo's losses have kind of aged a little bit poorly. I know she lost to Yasmine Uregui. That was her last loss as a professional fighter, but now Yasmine's slowly just going down a sharp decline. She's been heavy favorites in all of her fights. She's 1-2 in the UFC. She was supposed to be this highly ranked prospect. Got knocked unconscious in her first fight, bounced back win, then slept at 306. So some of these losses are aging really poorly. Marina Rodriguez has wins that have aged very well. Yan Xiaonan specifically.
No, that's a good point, Ryan. I don't think there's really arguing that. But also, Lucindo was 19, 20 years old when she took that fight. So now she's a few more years of experience under her belt. So we'll see how this one goes. I don't feel confident in my pick there, but we'll side with that. But all right, next up we have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson coming in as a plus 185 underdog against Joaquin Buckley at minus 225. Wonderboy has a professional record of 17-7-1 while being 12-7-1 in the UFC. Buckley has a professional record of 19-6 while being 9-4 in the UFC. Boys, do we think Wonderboy can rebound and get the job done here?
Unfortunately, I do not, simply because Joaquin Buckley is a smart fighter. I mean, he utilizes every single aspect of his game. You saw it against Sultan Rizabov, who had like 6 inches, maybe 7 inches on him. He knew he was going to get, he knew he couldn't get there with the reach. So he dives in, shoots takedowns, and controls him and tries to lay ground and pound, wins the fight. He knows when to pick his moments and choose his shots. And I think the grappling here, as he's getting better, is going to be a struggle for Wonderboy. I'm sure he's worked heavily on his takedown defense ever since his loss to Shavkat. But at 41 years old, it's how much more can you really pick up in the sport, that you should have picked up with his 15 or so years of fighting mixed martial arts and fighting professionally. I just think Joaquin Buckley will grind his way out to a decision win.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm with you, Rye. I think you hit all the points. Buckley's a smart fighter. I do see an opportunity that maybe Buckley gets his chin hit. But like you said, with the age and every year that passes, every minute that passes, a little bit power leaves Wonderboy's hands. I can see an avenue, where he point fights his way to a decision here. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it plays out a lot like Burns and Wonderboy played out. And it ends up just being a takedown, some ground and pound, gets him on the fence, and is just, getting his shots in and grinds his way out to a decision. I'm riding Buckley by decision here.
Yeah, the grappling in this one gets me nervous. I'm a Wonderboy fan. I'm rooting for Wonderboys. I think we all are here, I'd assume at least, before any money's on it. So the grappling aspect of it does scare me. But if Wonderboy can just keep Buckley at range and point fight, like you were talking about, Luke, point fight his way to a victory, I can see that happening. And as an almost 2-1 underdog, I really want to throw on Wonderboy. I really want to throw Wonderboy, almost 2-1.
I'm gonna sprinkle KO in there.
Come on, yeah. If I were to take it, I'd probably take the KO. I do think he can outpoint him on his way to a win and just not get taken down 1 round, win 2 rounds on the feet. I do like a little sprinkle on the TKO there. I don't know what the odds would be on that, but maybe we'll throw that out there. Who knows?
You never know. Salt Lake City, round 3, guy with more rounds under his belt. A tired Buckley.
Yeah, I like the Salt Lake City point too. Some crazy stuff happens there. You saw the Usman head kick happen there.
Kopylov head kick.
Yeah, Gaethje head kick happened there too on Poirier. So some crazy shit happens in Salt Lake City. So I'm excited for it.
And you, just like you said, you can never count out Wonderboy. Like you said, all the things we talked about him being old and stuff, but that experience is invaluable. He's one of the GOATs that never won the belt. This could easily be just a guy who's more experienced. We saw what he did to Holland. I don't think this fight goes that way, but we'll see. You never know. You can't count Wonderboy out. And like you said, it's always worth a sprinkle at the odds.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to sprinkle a little bit on that one. All right, so on to the main card. We have Ketlen Vieira at plus 650. Geez, my bad. Versus Kayla Harrison at minus 1100. Vieira is 14-3 while being 8-3 in the UFC. Harrison, her opposition, is 17-1 while being 1-0 in the UFC. Ryan, what do you think about this one?
I think we all know where this is heading. It's heading to the ground, and Kayla Harrison is going to win either by submission or ground and pound. I don't see another way this goes, and I like it now. I wasn't able to watch the pre-fight press conference, but I saw some clips, and Kayla Harrison's going full heel. I think she's just what the bantamweight division needs now. She's shit-talking Julianna Pena. And the quote was, "You started your career in 2009. You're 10-5. I started mine in 2017. I'm 17-1. Hard." And I think that with this win, she'll be fighting for the belt next. I think that's There's no question about that. And I'd like to see a breath of fresh air come into the bantamweight division and maybe pull Nunes back out of retirement.
Yeah, you hit it all. I don't think this one really has to do much talking about. Kayla Harrison is head over heels everyone else in that bucket, the women's bantamweight bucket. I will get to the championship fight, but I don't think any of these women in the fight for the championship belt stand a chance against Kayla Harrison. I think this is an easy play for me at the odds. I'm taking her win in round one, probably double chance between sub and TKO, just because I think she could easily get it done with the ground and pound. Breath of fresh air for sure. Love the way she talks, and she's fucking huge, dude. Like she was doing.
She's jacked. I don't know if you guys. She's jacked.
I don't know if you saw. Yeah, like they must. USADA, whatever the new pool that does the testing, you must have to test her all the time. I know in the NFL, after you have a good game, you get tested. Every time they see a clip of Kayla Harrison, they probably test her. Two things I saw this week. I saw her grappling Alex Pereira, and Alex Pereira is what, 6'3", 6'4", huge human being. Awesome. And obviously they were teaching each other, but yeah, getting hip tossed, like she looked like, oh, like this wouldn't be crazy, like that they're training together. Like any other woman with Alex Pereira grappling, you'd be like, all right, like he's definitely like not really learning that much. Probably she's teaching him. Like this is a legit one of the best mixed martial artists we've seen. And also I saw her crushing doing the grip challenge, and her her traps were like popping out of the shirt she was wearing. I'm like, how could you bet against this woman? Put the house on her.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Her piss might be able to melt steel. I'm not fully convinced that she's clean.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't expect this one to really be anywhere near competitive. I will say they had to have put her on the same card as Pennington versus Pena for a reason, right? I mean, she gets this done. You give her that title shot. You let them talk a little bit in the press conference beforehand, build something up, get some excitement going. So UFC knew what they were doing here. And I think it'll pay off for them. You know, I mean, they're going to get something exciting going into that next title shot there.
For sure.
But all right, next up we have Roman Dolidze at plus 125 versus Kevin Holland, your boy Luke, at minus 150. Dolidze is 13-3 while being 7-3 in the UFC, and Holland is 26-11 while being 13-8 in the UFC. Luke, we'll start in here. Are you riding with your boy Kevin Holland?
You know, this one was tough. I was really impressed with Dolidze against Anthony Smith going up a weight class. Obviously, Anthony Smith is a hard guy to predict because it's like some fights he looks like he's kind of getting back. He's calling out for title shots. He's beating contenders. And then he drops a dud like he did against Dolidze his last time out, where he really didn't do anything for 3 rounds. This is back at middleweight, correct?
Yes.
So it's like kind of the opposite direction because Holland's been toying with welterweight a little bit. Now he's back at middleweight. I think his second fight at middleweight in a row. And I think it's Dolidze's first fight back down at middleweight from fighting Anthony Smith at light heavyweight. So I think that also plays into an account. I just think right now, like, unless Dolidze comes in with a great game plan, like Holland is so unorthodox in his overall fighting style, not like the actual style he fights, but he could do it on the ground. He's got great jiu-jitsu. We've seen him, like Michael Chiesa is a great jiu-jitsu guy, black belt, and he made him look silly. And also he could strike with the best. I mean, he clean cut knocked out Joaquin Buckley, who we were talking about earlier as being this up and coming guy fighting really well. But the same thing, Holland will come out sometimes and look great, and sometimes it's like I wish he won that fight. I wish he fought a little different, like against Venom Page and Della Maddalena, who I thought that was a really close fight. The thing that scares me is the weight. I think that the reason that I like welterweight Kevin Holland is just because he's so big for that division, and he's still big, but like we've seen him lose at middleweight because of the size disparity. So I'm going to ride with Kevin Holland, but this one is a toss-up for me. I like Roman here too. I wouldn't be mad if anyone took him.
Yeah, Luke, I agree with you there. This fight was really tricky for me to pick, but I did ultimately end up deciding to go with Kevin Holland strictly because he has had prior success at middleweight, moved down the welterweight and got fed some absolute dogs in Venom Page and Jack Della Maddalena. You know, 2 fights that aren't easy. Took Maddalena to a split decision, which is impressive in and of itself. And I think after his last performance, getting dropped by Olszewski and then being able to throw up a sub while still dusting off the cobwebs, and locking in an armbar off your back, it's just his game is he's competent everywhere within his game, and he makes him even more dangerous knowing that he can throw up effective submissions and get them off his back. So if Dolidze uses his size and tries to take us to the ground, he can still hit clean sweeps, throw up triangles, try to lock in arm bars, and do whatever he can to win the fight.
Yeah, definitely. But unfortunately, I am on Roman Dolidze's side here. I think Luke made my point for me. I like the bigger guy in this fight. Dolidze's been in there with some very good guys too. I know he lost his UD to Marvin Vettori, but even in that one, I mean, he showed that he was able to compete in that fight. I think he took a round there. He had a close one with Amavov, who's up there. I think Amavov's solid. I think he's a step up from Kevin Holland. And, taking that into account, while he will be the bigger guy, I'll take my money with the underdog here. All right, next up, we have Jose Aldo at plus 125. You heard it, plus 125 for Jose Aldo versus Mario Bautista at minus 150. Aldo has a professional record of 32-8 while being 14-7 in the UFC, where Bautista is 14-2 while being 8-2 in the UFC. I'll tell you guys one thing. I've made the mistake of betting against Aldo in his last fight against the young up-and-comer and Jonathan Martinez, and it burned me. I will not make that same mistake twice. I don't know about you guys, but what do you like here?
Nah, I have Aldo winning. I especially like him as a dog. I really think this should have been more of a pick-em, maybe slightly leaning towards Aldo's favor. But if you're going to give me plus money on him, I'll take him. After his performance against Jose Martinez, he looked really good. And I feel like Mario Bautista is just a very similar fighter, strikes at range. More of a grappling game. Mario Bautista does have more of a grappling game, but Jose Aldo might arguably be the best anti-wrestler that's ever touched the octagon. I mean, he stuffed 16 of 16 of Marab's takedowns. Jan had a hard time getting him to the ground. He usually just bounces right back up. And if it's a striking match, I have Aldo every single time.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm on Aldo here. It was harder for me. I do like Mario Bautista, but I think you made a great point. He fights a lot like Jonathan Martinez, who Jose Aldo just beat. And I know Jose Aldo took some time off. He retired. I think during that time, he got introduced to the Hall of Fame. He was an older gentleman, but he was boxing. I don't know what affiliation he boxed under, but I think since he's came back to the UFC, which his boxing has always been great, it looks even better now, especially in his older age. Like you guys said, the anti-wrestler, probably the best ever, if not definitely in the conversation. And paired that with his increased boxing, I think even like this he's aging like fine wine, man. He looks great. I don't think we start saying, oh, maybe, one last shot, but I think we're getting there. I have him here. I think he wins by UD.
Yeah, a win here for sure. I'd like to see him step up in the rankings rather than fight dead even or up or down. I mean,
let's be honest, the bantamweight's a stacked division, if not the most stacked division in the UFC. So it's kind of hard to just throw him in the mix. But things happen, man. Guys fall out. Fighters are injured, like Sugar's injured. I don't know. I know a lot of guys are biting at the bit to get up there. But I wouldn't be mad if they're like, hey, Jose Aldo, you want to fight Marab one last time? Like, just throw him in there. Like, who cares?
I mean, yeah,
I was going to say, you know what I'd like to see, especially if Jose Aldo gets this done? You have two former champs go up against each other, Davis and Figueiredo, or even Jan. I mean, yeah, shit. See, that's hard too because Jan, former champ. Oh man, see if they can reach, like interim title for that double champ status potential. Something like these. There's so many guys in that division that are a fight away from being deserving, and they're all.
Yeah, that's why it's hard. I know, like if this was like a picture flyweight story, like you just throw them in there, like fuck it. But it's harder with this division. I just think when you're at the level, like, I mean, he was the featherweight GOAT for a while. I mean, some people may still have him in that conversation. Definitely up there. I think it's kind of out of reach right now, personally. But with a guy with that like pedigree, just like the UFC's done crazier things. I mean, they've done crazier things. So,
is Jan fighting Figgy? Was that made? I feel like I heard something about that, but I could be wrong.
I don't think it's. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know if it's official. I know he calls out practically everyone after they lose. to fight them. He called out Sugar too, so we'll see. I mean, I'm fine after this fight. If they do that fight and Jose Aldo takes the winner. It's kind of hard though because those two guys are definitely higher up in the ranks, and they would have to fight down. But
they are fighting November 23rd in Macau.
Okay, so that was okay. So that was announced. So I mean, you'd probably assume that the winner of that will get the winner of Merab versus Umar, assuming that fight gets made. I think that's probably what they're targeting next. But I mean, yeah, that division is stacked. There's so many fights you can make in that division. All right, next up to the co-main event, we have Raquel Pennington at -175 versus Julianna Pena at +145. Pennington has a professional record of 16-9 with a record of 13-5 in the UFC, while Pena is 12-5 while being 7-2 in the UFC. Ryan, I know you have that little sprinkle on that Pennington parlay. Are you actually taking her to win this fight?
I am. It's not that she looked any impressive against Mauro Benasilva. You know, she did what she had to and she got it done. I guess the thing that makes me most scared about this fight is the fact that Julianna Pena hasn't fought in over 2 years. So ring rust is definitely a factor. I know she sat on the sidelines waiting for Amanda Nunes for that trilogy fight. She retired. But then after that, we've just been waiting for a return. And Salt Lake City, coming back to Salt Lake City after a 2.5-year layoff is brutal. There's nothing more I need to say here. I take the active fighter in this fight every time, especially to come off a 2.5 year stint trying to fight for the belt. Much harder, bigger stakes. Odds are stacked against.
I completely understand your point. I'm going against you here. I'm taking Pena. I think the matter of the fact is that Pena talks all this talk. At some point, you got to back it up. This is her opportunity to back it up. She's talking to Kayla Harrison today. Everything's lining up for her to get this chance. And like you said, 2 years off is a lot of time off, but it is a 5-round fight. I don't see Pennington finishing her. Eventually those cobwebs are going to disappear and she's going to be full go again. You take that much time off, you better be preparing. I don't know if she had a kid during the time. I think she had a kid before she beat Amanda. But at this time you're training this whole time. You're getting ready for the shot. And she beat Amanda Nunes. She beat the GOAT at this point. And then even in her second fight, I think it went 5 rounds. She lost UD. I forget if she finished her, but it went.
It did go UD, but she got 50-45'd.
I think it might have even been worse than that. I think some of them had 50-43, 50-42.
But when Pennington fought for the belt against Nunes, she got dominated for 5 rounds and then finished in the 5th. She just poured it on her and then got her out of there. So I think just the fact that you pair it up with the long layoff, you better be preparing. You talk all this talk. At this point, she's a girl who's, she's beating all the odds. She's not scared of anything. And she wants her belt back. She's been talking about it for 3 fucking years. This is the opportunity. I'm riding with Pennington or with Pena here. I think she gets it done. I think they line up nice for her to get her ass beat by Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, I think this one should be interesting. My main points that I have written down here is that Pena has not fought since she lost to Amanda Nunes, like Ryan was touching on. And my thing with Pena is it's kind of hard to gauge how women's MMA, it's hard to gauge how good a lot of these fighters are, to be honest with you. And Pena is one of them for me because even before she fought Nunes, it wasn't like she was just running through chicks. I think she got subbed 2 fights before a Nunes fight and then gets a title shot. So it's hard for me to gauge how good Julianna Pena really is. And now you're going to tell me she hasn't fought in over 2 years. I'll stay with the activity, and I'll take Pennington probably by a decision win. I don't think she's going to finish her.
I mean, at the end of the day, does it really matter who wins? Either or one of these girls is marching to their grave, and they have to step into the cage with Kayla Harrison.
And I know Pennington won that last fight, but she won it was a doctor stoppage, right? She split Buenasilva's head open, I think. So, for me, it wasn't it was a great strike, and that's part of the game. I mean, we saw it last weekend with Moicano, but at the same time, it wasn't a win where I was holy shit, she looks great, at all. So I'm kind of feeling it was more of you had a game plan, you got the cut you were looking for, but at the same time, I don't know. I just have a feeling about Pena. I had a feeling when she beat Nunes, I don't know, Ryan, if you were there, our buddy Lino was we're betting Amanda Nunes. I was I kind of feel like Pena. And he's no, dude, we never bet against Amanda Nunes. And it was plus 2,000 or something.
I remember the silence.
And then I sprinkled on her I sprinkled on her in the second fight, which was just a waste of money. But yeah, I'm riding with Pena. We'll see.
All right, and leading us into the main event, we have Alex Pereira coming in at -500 versus Khalil Rountree at +350. Poatan has a professional record of 11-2 while being 8-1 in the UFC. Khalil Rountree is 14-5 while being 9-5 in the UFC. I know the odds here are heavily in Poatan's favor. What do you guys think about this line being set where it is, and how do you think this fight plays out?
I agreed with the line. I still agree with the line. I mean, Khalil Rountree's last win was against Anthony Smith, but people have been comparing this, and it's kind of scaring me, to the Sean Strickland Israel Adesanya situation that happened a year and a month ago, to the day almost, where you have a guy who's fought people who were unranked. Not Magomed Ankalaev. You know what I'm talking about, though. One of the guys whose last name ends with a V. Calls for a title. Things happen. People drop out. Gets it. Everyone says this guy's going to get killed. Adesanya's going to knock him out, sleep him unconscious, do whatever he wants to do with him. And then Strickland comes in and shocks the world. That's been weighing on my mind a little bit after hearing people compare the two. But then I looked and saw that Khalil Rountree has never attempted a takedown in however many fights he's had in the UFC. Said that he plans on standing and banging with Alex Pereira the entire time. Khalil has had pretty suspect cardio in the past, gassing out within 3 rounds. He usually just throws everything into his punches in rounds 1 and 2 and then tires out. Game plan must be different for this one, but given that it's in Salt Lake City, if this even makes it out of the first or second or first round, Alex Pereira is going to have his way with them. It's either the left hook of death and then maybe submission. Alex has been teasing those little trips and takedowns all week. Got one on Sean Strickland with the sparring footage. I don't know, dude. Maybe this is it. Pereira is just trying to prove how dominant he really is and subs Khalil Rountree. I'm definitely sprinkling a little bit of money on that.
Ryan, I loved everything you said. I think there's just levels to this game, and we're talking like you've been hearing it around MMA media that Alex Pereira is like he's entering that Mount Rushmore of UFC fighters. I know we have some questions we'll get to after this fight, but he's at that level. I mean, he's in 2 or 3 years, the amount of accolades this guy has accomplished, the amount of respect and popularity he has gained. It just outweighs anything Khalil Rountree has done in his career while being there for so much longer. I get the Muay Thai background. I get going and training. But we're talking about arguably the best striker to ever grace the UFC. This guy had, like you said, the touch of death. And for me, like I know, Zach, we always go back and forth with MMA math. Khalil Rountree is supposed to fight Jamal Hill. I think he got suspended, or maybe he was suspended before, but that fight got canceled. I don't think he beats Jamal Hill. I don't think he beats Yuri. I don't think he beats Jan. These are the top guys at the division who Alex Pereira has cleaned out. Like you said, no takedowns ever attempted. What is he going to do? He's gonna knock out Alex Pereira. Like, I don't think he's a better striker than Izzy. I think he's powerful. I don't think he's more calculated. Alex Pereira, in a clip this week, said to Glover Teixeira, said, "I have finally found out this game. I understand it now." You know how fucking scary that is to a guy who has 2 belts or is a two division champ in the UFC? He figured out, like you said, he spars with Sean Strickland, champ, probably fighting for the belt again. Like he surrounds himself with killers. He gets trained by Glover Teixeira, one of the best to ever do it. The leg kicks was something that was brought up to me when I was talking to some of my buddies. Alex Pereira is like one of the best leg kick checkers I've ever seen. Like he doesn't really, you never see him get damage to the legs. I think everything you said, Ryan, with the altitude and the gassing out, Alex Pereira. I mean, the only fight he kind of looked tired in was the Jan fight, and I honestly, was that at Elevation? Was that Salt Lake City as well?
Salt Lake City.
That was Salt Lake City. It was the same card as they had a Gaethje knockout on Poirier.
Yeah, and then he's looked great since. I love Alex Pereira. I think the line is exactly how it should be. I think the sub sprinkle is a great sprinkle. I don't know when. I feel like we should even juice it up and maybe do like rounds 2 or 3, or maybe 2, 3, 4. But yeah, I see this playing out and knockout. I don't see it getting out of the second. I see Alex Pereira having his way and finally gets a guy that's, doesn't have any threat on the ground. I see, a prime kickboxing Alex Pereira getting this done.
Yeah, I will say I kind of wanted to take Khalil just because my main event picks have been so off recently, and I don't want to see Pereira go down. But yeah, I got to go with Pereira here. What does scare me a little bit with Rountree is he does have really fast entries. Like, he's very quick, and Pereira does get hit, and Khalil does have the power to put anyone out. But with that being said, Alex has faced 1,000 strikers in his career, and Khalil is just going to be another one of them at the end of the day. And I think Alex finds his chin within the first couple rounds. That left hook connects, maybe eats up his legs and comes up top with a high kick. I could see that happening as well. But I like the Pereira finish in this one.
I will say this. I just hope the fight goes long enough for Khalil to pull out his super secret special move.
Yeah, super secret move. Yeah.
He said, you'll know it when you see it. So I just hope we get to see that. I hope it doesn't work, but I want to see. I want to see whatever the hell he cooked up in training camp.
I want to see whatever he has up the sleeve, man. He has to have something pretty cool. I don't know what it is. Like maybe like a spinning back. I don't know, man. Some crazy Muay Thai move.
I was looking at some of the fights. Like, let's just read them off. Khalil Rountree's most recent victories. Anthony Smith kind of sucks. Chris Dawkins, we don't even talk about him. Dustin Jacoby, he had a split decision with. Dustin Jacoby's a kickboxing background, right? Like, I think he fought in one or something before. And Carl Robinson. And then I can't pronounce this. Modesta Bukakis he beat as well. And then he lost to Pranchino by decision and Ian Kudabala. Like, obviously we're going back to 2019, but we're talking about two different leagues right now. Like,
yeah, I know.
This isn't close.
Yeah, 100%, Luke. I was listening to like Joe Rogan. He was talking about Khalil Rountree's win over like Gokhan Saki back in like 2018. He was like, "Oh, Gokhan Saki was like the next upcoming big kickboxer," and I'm like, dude, you can't compare this to Alex Pereira, like even in the slightest. It's really just not comparable. He hasn't fought anyone on Poaton's level or near his level in the striking department.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is an easy play at the odds in the safe parlay. We might actually have a negative safe parlay this week.
Yeah, we might. But all right, we have some questions to get to. I meant to get to these at the beginning, but here we are. So first off, we have Reagan, and he goes, "What's up, fellas? Reagan here. Am I crazy for liking over 1.5 rounds in the main event? I feel like Pereira is due for a fight to go at least a few rounds."
Over 1.5? No, it's not crazy. I mean, Yuri, I think the first Yuri fight, I think it was just on the edge of over 1.5. Last time he was in Salt Lake City, Jan Blachowicz went to a decision. This isn't going to go to a decision, but I could see, especially with the elevation being a factor, especially with, knowing Pereira's fight IQ, just trying to, coast around, set something up, like jabs to the body, kicks to the legs, like you were saying, Zach, that opened Khalil Rountree up for a head kick. And, that just takes time. And that very well could happen in rounds 2 or 3.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I would like to see the odds on that. I think it definitely leans more towards the under, but I like Reagan said, like he's been due for a longer fight. It is at elevation. He knows that. He might, he also knows Khalil doesn't have the best gas tank, and that power diminishes as the fight goes on. So I could see him slow playing this. But it's just kind of hard to bet against the trend of him getting guys out of there early. Sometimes he might not mean to. He just knocks guys out.
Yeah. I think he'll go into this one with somewhat of caution, just knowing how Khalil enters and how he just explodes into his entries. And I think he'll kind of want to slow play that a little bit and get a gauge on what his speed's like. So I don't know if he'll necessarily look to engage right away. So I don't hate that over 1.5 from that standpoint. But again, all it takes is one touch of death from that left hand at any second, and he can put him out. So it's kind of Pereira is probably the most difficult one to predict over-unders on. I mean, it's really tough there. But next thing from Reagan is, what's your favorite food to eat during fights? I usually like pizza that my friend's dad buys for us.
Shout out Mr. Tong.
All right.
I'm a big wing guy. I feel like I play the UFC kind of like a Sunday football Sunday. Like I like wings. I like some nachos. Last fight, Colin's girlfriend made the buffalo chicken dip. That was great.
Shout out Colin's girlfriend. That was pretty cool.
It's a male viewing event for the majority of it. We like our buffalo chicken dip. We like our nachos. If it's a summer day, throw some burgers and hot dogs on the grill.
Yeah, look, I have to agree there. It's almost like it's like a Super Bowl party once a month every Saturday, where you just bust out the wings, the buff chicken dip, pizza. Other than that, main favorite snack is beer for me. If I'm going to be completely blunt here, I find myself not remembering what happened. Most times we all get together to watch a card.
Just look up
remember the what was it? Islam Volk 1, Brian, with the whiskey?
Yeah. I had to, I was like, oh, I woke up the next day, said my sorries to you, looked at my phone, and was like, oh, split decision. Nice. Got to rewatch that one.
Next up, we have UFC Mount Rushmore of only active fighters.
Only active?
Only active. So with this question, are we putting like Jose Aldo in play, or is it like current primes?
I mean, yeah, it's weird, right? Because obviously,
I think any guy fighting.
Any guy fighting?
All
right.
Yeah. Ryan, let's hear yours.
Well, John Jones, the one spot, still active, fighting in November. It's the clear number one pick there. And then for active fighters now, you got to go with the 2-division champ, Alex Pereira. I'm not saying, like 1, 2, 3, or 4 in any particular order besides John. Damn, man. Dustin, no. Islam's got to go up there. And
yeah, with you there.
The fourth, I don't know. The fourth is interchangeable when you look at active fighters in the UFC. Considering, like you said, Jose Aldo is still active, you could throw him up there. Volk, Holloway. I'm looking at featherweights right now. I'm trying to think, like, Poirier has the career, but he doesn't have the belt. Charles Oliveira didn't defend the belt nearly as long. Can't throw him there. Gaethje, once again, didn't have the belt. Looking at middleweights, Adesanya.
You can go Izzy.
Yeah, you can go Izzy.
They're
all so interchangeable. I mean,
yeah.
With mine, I'd probably go Jones, Aldo. Put Usman in there too. We didn't talk about Usman. Usman could be in that Mount Rushmore. I'd probably go Usman in there. And then that fourth one, I could even go like Triple C could be in there. Poatan could be in there. I don't know. It's kind of between like Triple C, Poatan, and Izzy for that third one, or for that fourth one, I mean. But I mean, if we're going all mixed martial arts, I'd probably lean Triple C with having that Olympic gold medal. I mean, I don't know if we're counting that as far as like MMA goes, but as a mixed martial art. If not, then I'd probably take Poatan with that fourth one.
Yeah, I'm viewing it a little more of like, definitely still fighting, but like it's hard because we're having such trouble differentiating. I'm going to go with guys who are like kind of still fighting for belts. So I'm going to go Jones, Islam as my top two. I'm going to go Max, and I'm going to go Alex Pereira. I just think
Max could be in there too. We just completely blew over that one. So
just like winning the BMF, fighting for the belt again. Like if he wins the belt again, like he's up there in everybody's like all time list. He's top 10. I think he might be top 10 already, but that's who I would go for my 4.
Yeah, it's a solid question. All right, next up we have, and this is our last question. What does Alex do if he has another KO win this weekend? Does he go DDP at 185 or does he go up to heavyweight?
I think neither. At this point, you have to give him the Ankalaev matchup, assuming that he wins when he fights. I feel like there's really no question about that. I know Dana said Ankalaev's next, but he threw a little caveat in there and said if he wins and if he's impressive. Ankalaev isn't a boring fighter. he
No.
KOs guys.
I don't think he's really ever been boring, to be honest with you.
I mean, he's not. Like, I know people like see the last name, see where he's from, and just think, oh, this guy takes you down. Movsar grinds you out. You get that impression just based off the name alone. But Ankalaev puts on good fights. He is Alex Pereira's biggest test. I don't think with a win over Khalil Rountree, he earns. I mean, despite everything he's done, he earns like that right to go back and try to compete for 2 titles. If Dricus is still the champ and he goes and beats Ankalaev, absolutely. Look down, look up, do whatever you want. But until you fight the best guy, the best contender in that division, I don't see him being like why he should be able to move down or up.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I think he stays put. Oh, sorry, Luke, but I agree, Ryan. I think he stays put. Because it takes a lot to move up or down, and it takes a lot of preparation. I mean, even to get yourself because he bulked up to light heavyweight, so then to be able to cut down and feel good at middleweight would take a bit of time. And I think he's just very active right now, and I think he'll look to fight again quickly, especially if he takes little damage. And then on the opposite side of that sword, it takes a lot of preparation to move up to heavyweight as well. So I think he stays put.
Yeah, he's staying put for sure. I think mainly I don't think he goes up to heavyweight. Like you said, he's an older guy. And I think you have to put up a lot of weight to compete with the Joneses and the Cyril Gans and the Tom Aspinalls of the world. I mean, we saw Jones took 2 years off just to get there. Obviously, Alex Pereira fluctuates in weight a lot more than most guys. I do see that he stays, but if he gets another win and let's say DDP beats Strickland in this upcoming fight, that I could see him going back down. He's teased it. He said he just needed time to mentally get in that spot where he could cut that weight. And they've been talking shit. That he has a lot more respect for the guys up than he does for the guys down. The one thing I will say, though, is if Strickland wins against DDP, which I'm hoping, I'm going to definitely put on Strickland, he doesn't go down. They're homies now. So.
No, absolutely. That is true.
Alex knocks the fuck out again. So
I guess the other thing that I'm thinking is if he does go down and he beats Dricus, would he want to keep continuing to cut and fluctuate his weight back and forth between 185 and 205 to try to defend those belts? It's like one of those. You have to give up one of those belts, and I'm assuming he'd give up the 185 almost as soon as he had, got it. It's almost
the only thing is, you call it Izzy. He would say, "Izzy, let's do it one more time."
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the only thing he would do. It wouldn't be like, "Oh, I'm going to sit here and have guys come in and he would just fight Dricus, beat Dricus, call out Izzy. If Izzy wanted to fight, they would do that fight, and then he would just go back up to 205. That's how I see it. He could do that in a time period where he wouldn't have to vacate the 205 belt.
Yeah, and he's defended the belts enough times where they probably won't force him to vacate it. He's arguably the UFC's biggest star right now, so I feel like at that point they'd give him the leeway to kind of do as he wants there.
Completely agree.
But yeah, that should wrap it up. The only thing is we're going to get a little sheet of bet picks out, but we can talk about that and get that out at some point tomorrow for anyone listening that wants to ride with the boys. We'll put some together.
Yeah, definitely. We got to wait for Big Tom to come out here and give us some picks. He's been wrapped up in the NFL side of things over here at Around the Felt, but we'll get that out. I don't know if we ended up getting one out last time. It was kind of a crazy weekend for us, but we'll definitely get it out this weekend.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening to anybody that is still here. It's always a pleasure.
Yep.